What's up, trickies? Hi, so we've got some news. What's console got? Oh, you guys are gonna get the statues. You get statues for the colony. Yay. Just another beautification project where you can dump a lot of dilithium. I mean, they're fun because it spices things up. It makes things kind of pretty after a while. It fleshes things out rather than just having a very bare walls and everything. Like the streetlights don't necessarily do anything, but like the planters do. The floor, not so much. And the statue, there's a couple other statues, they don't really do anything. Except those little like nub platform things, it puts something on them so they don't just look like, if you're kind of a design person, you look and you're like, there's something, what's supposed to go there? What's supposed to go there? These statues are supposed to go there. Not much else that I've seen. Yeah, no, Xbox and the same. So, nothing as of yet. This week will be week 3 rewards for Scylla. See, I figured they'd say something in the middle of that, but they don't. Scylla and Charybdis. Figured they'd say like the name of it. So, yeah. Its Bajor defense set was week 2, what we just had, and that's core damage systems. 2-piece bonus increases phaser, disruptor, and plasma damage. So you can put this on anything you want. Just it's basic Klingon, Federation Klingon Romulan. The next one is range modulation, set 3. This 3-piece bonus extends the range of the plasmatic retaliatory coronal ejections and extends the range of energy siphoning field. Because, well, you would already have 3-piece if you already went through and like bought your ship. In fact, some people should already have their ship as of like today, maybe yesterday, because I know I've skipped a couple days because of resets. Like, I know I didn't do it Thursday because I didn't want to get off my cycle and whatnot. So I have like 2 days left to go. But so you're going to have your 3-piece and then week 3 will come in and we'll have our 4-piece. It says, stay tuned for next week's blog. Really, just go to one of your items and right click it and hit more info and you can scroll down and see what your 4-piece is. You don't have to wait for the blog to come out. The big thing, so next week will probably be a review of that ship. The Bajoran's ship, even though probably people have already paid for it with Lobai or Zen and already done their reviews on other videos and much more popular things and gone over the nuts and bolts of the ship. I'm just going to tell you what I think about it and how I fly escorts. I don't fly escorts very well. Speaking of like, I don't fly escorts very well, let's go talk about a science ship that's coming out. The Colony. So it says beginning on the next holodeck patch. I don't know when. You can now, which I think will be this Thursday, the 8th? Because this was posted on the 1st, but I'm not sure it's already there because I haven't seen anybody flying around with it. And there are probably already a bunch of people with like a tier 5 colony. But you have to have a tier 5 colony in order to get this. So you have to, the main track. So there's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's the 3 lines that go out to 5 here. Once you get that main track up to 5, and you have a starbase with a tier 1 shipyards. I don't know why you wouldn't have a starbase with a tier 1 shipyards. You had a maxed out colony. You seem to have some weird priorities in your fleet if that's the case. But I would say no judgment. But yeah, I'm putting a little judgment on that. I'm judging you. It'll cost 20,000 fleet credits, 5 fleet ship modules, which you buy from the Zen store, the C store, however old you want to be and what you want to call it. Because it used to be called C points. 1 starbase military fleet ship provisioning, which I know my fleet is just oodles. So many of those. Not even a joke. What I find funny before I get into the stats of the ship is that a while back they had, hey, design a new ship, design a new ship, design a new ship. And they put out like 2 options and then vote on this, vote on that, and then vote on these. And it was like 1 week vote on this, 1 week vote on these 2, 1 week vote on these 2. And the next one was over the next 2 weeks vote on these 3. And then that's that. And then they picked it. That ship wound up being the very first Lucari vessel. Or as some people like to call it, the Dorito ship. I'm sorry, I've never seen a triangle Dorito. Those things are broken and twisted. They look like they're in some sort of weird folded space thing. No Dorito is triangle. I don't know what you guys, like, you guys are looking at the computer generated model on the bag, maybe? I don't know. And then there's the disc, which came in second. So that wound up being the other ship they came out with for the Lucari. And then the one that everyone was like, oh, let's do the Sona thing. Let's do the Sona. Because the Sona have that, like, arc ship, as this one's called the boomerang ship. But to me, boomerangs are more triangle versus an arc. I don't know. People look at things and they immediately assume a shape. Anyways, so the 3 finalists of the 6 wound up becoming Lucari ships. And in the order. So basically, if the triangle would have gotten 3rd place, we would have gotten the triangle as this one instead of, and we would have gotten the boomerang as the first one. I kept voting on the boomerang one, but people don't like boomerang ships or arc ships so it's a scout ship, but it's a science vessel. And as a scout ship, it's very similar to a bird of prey, as it has a commander science, lieutenant, and then it has commander science, 2 lieutenant commander universals, a lieutenant universal, and an ensign universal. Like commander science, universal, everything else, except one of the lieutenant commanders is a temporal operative also, which I will say this much right here is a benefit, because when you only have like an ensign temporal operative or a lieutenant temporal operative, you're kind of jammed up, because the thing with temporal operative is you need builders and consumers. And if you choose the wrong builder, you might be having way too many entropy points to be able to consume them. And if you have too many consumers, so you have to kind of balance it. And when you only have one ability, like an ensign temporal operative, you're like, I gotta pick one. You have a builder that gives you stuff you can't use, or you have a consumer that consumes stuff you can't build. So just putting that one out there. With lieutenant, you can kind of do that, and you typically want your consumer to be the more powerful version. But with lieutenant commander, you can actually get like a small builder, and a big consumer or whatnot, at least an AoE consumer of sorts. So that's what I'm going to say about temporal operative. I'm still temporal operative specialization because bonus exotic particle damage. I don't use temporal operative abilities though. I want to, and I kind of and I probably should. I think I have one available on the Paradox. But it's got 5 science consoles, 4 tactical consoles, and 2 engineering consoles. It's got an 18 degree per second base turn rate, which is like, when compared to my Vesta, that's spinning like a top. Inertia is 80, more than my current Vesta. I mean, this thing is basically an escort in terms of what it has a hull strength modifier of 0.99, shield modifier of 1.21, 3 in the front, 3 in the back, 2 device slots. 2. Most science vessels have 333, just letting you know. Escorts have 2, cruisers have 4. That's kind of, like, they're all designed roughly about the same way. But this is 5 science, 4 tactical, so it's much more offensive. Plus it has raider flanking, which means you do 25% more damage to NPCs when attacking their rear arc. So, benefit. Again, if you're a raider, if you want to fly a ship that is a raider, and you don't really have an idea about what specialization you want, I'd say pick up intelligence. Because they have a trait that allows you to do bonus damage when attacking something from behind, when attacking their rear arc. Works on ground too. Ground is better because you're flanking everything outside of like this arc. So, but in space you have to be hitting the rear arc, but it's still great because you do like X% more damage. And with raider flanking, you're doing X% more damage. Okay, so it says here it's called space flanking, tier 3 of intelligence. And it's 10% all damage when hitting an enemy's rear arc, reduced to plus 5% all damage in PvP. Stacks with Raider flanking innate. So 10% plus 25% from Raider flanking, and you're doing bonus 35% damage just being behind something. That's a bonus there if you're trying to eke out a little bit more damage from this. It says all damage, so that I think that applies to exotic damage. It says all damage, but sometimes all damage is all weapons, and they don't fully blend that together. Since it has subsystem targeting, sensor analysis, and a secondary reflector slot, again, the magical Science Vessel 3. Can equip dual cannons. They're starting to realize that dual cannons on a science ship is pretty broken. But again, you still can't have aux dual cannons because that's Vesta only. Literally, every time I talk about a science vessel, I'm probably going to plug the Vesta. Because if you seriously want to be a science officer, science vessel, the Vesta is a good investment. Both Vestas is better, but then you have a limited amount of console slots because you have 6 Vesta-only consoles. So the console is a reverberant quantum lock. It has a scout ship mastery, which is accuracy, then exotic damage, then crit severity, and then healing and shield. And then its trait is proto spill. So reverberant quantum lock. This seems interesting because it's the console, and this console can be used on any ship, not just this ship. So I'm thinking about picking this ship up. But I have a long time to wait because we're not anywhere near console or colony tier 5. However, what it does is it allows the quantum signature of protomatter to link with a target ship. So when you put these in, since they're quantumly entangled momentarily, they get pulled closer together, which cool, can pull things away from certain areas. I mean, I wouldn't depend on it too much, but again, control expertise. You may want to look into that one. It might pull it closer faster, I guess. Anyways, and then any damage dealt, but this can also happen probably over like 10 kilometers because it's a console. So it hits 10 kilometers, you can start pulling something slightly closer to you. Any damage dealt to the linked starship will repair the source starship. Any damage done, not like the damage you do to it. So use that wisely. And any hull restoration applied to the source starship is instantly transmitted to the targeted foe as radiation damage. Note, these cannot proc off each other. Again, proc means a trigger. These can't trigger each other. So any healing you do doesn't do damage to that ship, which then heals you again, which then, because that's a floating point error for those coders out there, if you understand. If you've ever designed a game and whatnot, you know what a floating point error is. That leads to a RAM dump. But the trigger limit is 10 times per second. You know, you can't necessarily because as a science, you can totally dot the crud out of things with gravity well and destabilizing beam, refracting Tetryon Cascade can even cause that one if you use it. If you use a Vesta or use the Quantum Facet, you have a belly beam, which is DPS, it's literally damage per second, plus all your weapons happening to it, so it's only 10 per second. That's still a lot, that's over 1/10 of a second. The minimum effect magnitude is 500 per trigger, which isn't bad, but then again, triggers 10 times per second. That can be 5,000 damage per second, or that's the minimum effect magnitude. So minimum 500 damage per second, minimum 500 hull per second. So if you're close to dying or your hull's going down, link with a ship, you should be able to get some health back, especially if you're in a high intensity environment. Usually you want your bigger ships because they'll last longer and you'll get more use out of the console. Now, Proto Spill is the starship trait. After achieving level 5 in the Lucari Dranuur scout ship, you will unlock Proto Spill. This seems quirky. Activating any hull healing or shield healing bridge officer ability, hazard emitters, engineering team, shield, or science team, transfer shield strength, fermion field. I'm not sure. I believe the Protomatter console will work, the one where it just increases your regeneration. It should, considering it's a Lucari console. Will cause a radiation AoE centered on the healing ally or self. So if you heal someone with hazard emitters, you'll cause radiation damage to up to 5 near foes within 3 kilometers of the healed target. Max once every 6 seconds. So it's cool. It's a weird thing. Now here's a to use. If you see one of your cruiser friends flying into the middle of combat because I have beam boat, I've got beam fire at will, and I got all this stuff going, and they're just gonna fly into the middle of combat and whatnot, heal them. They may not need it, but then again, you're just activating it, and you're gonna cause a radiation cloud radiation around them to the 5 nearest foes of your healed target. It's a little bit of damage. It's that little ticky bit of damage. And that's what science is. It's the little damage. A lot of people are like, oh, I like to hit really hard with my weapons. Yeah, well, as science, I like to hit with like 20 billion different abilities. We're like, oh, yeah, well, my dual beam overload 3 just hit for, I don't know, 20,000. Okay, I've got 20 things hitting for 1,000. We're doing the same amount of damage. But that's that for the week. Again, took out console and all that stuff. I will chat with you guys next week about the Bajoran scout ship. We'll watch me fail all over the place on that one.